Welcome to my EDFG 460 multimedia presentation, where I will highly argue the lack of creativity and imagination in the education system. The first question is, do schools kill creativity? According to Sir Ken Robinson, the education system is focused on the idea of academic capability rather than embrace student originality. This is a visual representation of my constructed mind map that shows creativity and imagination in education. Creativity is the formation of new ideas and bringing them into reality in the shapes of new products, concepts, materials, and practices. On the other hand, imagination is one of the most cognitive capabilities that allows for contemplative realities. Jefferson and Anderson highlight the importance of transforming school system from a dominant test model habitation, where creativity and imagination are the key aim of learning. Although several contemporary schools may disagree, I highly recommend that schools must stop educating students out of their creative abilities. Similarly to Sir Ken Robinson, where he highly criticized the education system, that students are being educated out of it. We are all born artists, so why not grow with this originality? Correspondingly, Australian Human Rights Commission acknowledges and supports that all children have a right to a holistic education, as it leads to a positive inclusive practice. Thus, schools must encourage students' imagination and creativity in contemporary education. Because original ideas have values, we must treat it as a high-leveled subject. Can you imagine if schools emphasize the importance of creativity and imagination? I'll leave that for your own imagination. To begin with, imagination is essential in education as it enhances reasonable thinking, initiates invention and flexibility. This portrays that all teachers have a duty to cater for the students' imagination and allow for it to be the main aspect for effective learning. This generation of teachers have the chance to integrate a different schooling approach full of creativity. Also, Anderson and Jefferson stress that creativity is a definable, knowable, and teachable skill that is essential to the 21st century learning. Thus, teachers have the capability to change the contemporary school system to manifest encouragement and more excitement in the classroom. However, Morris argues that the education system is a hidden scheme to destroy creativity. He stresses that education has a major place in education. How can we as teachers make an impact? In relation to craft, states that every good teacher is a stimulus and deliverer to creativity. However, she classifies bad teachers in a way that stimulate a jail for students. Also, craft identifies that imagination can lead to meaning, which we all seek in every shape or form. Consequently, imagination and creativity must matter in the contemporary school system. Furthermore, no craftsman or engineer have ever designed an artifact from nothing. Are we going to refuse that creativity exists? Therefore, as educators, we must aim for creative lessons in the classroom. According to Faulty and Savage, there are 4 key elements to aim for in a creative lesson, including divergent thinking, experiential learning, motivation, and enjoyment. All 4 have the capacity to educate and enhance creativity and imagination in all students. Divergent thinking applies to thinking outside of the box, which demonstrate out of the ordinary is taking place. Experiential learning occurs from social participation and learning new aspects that result in deeper learning. This involves role plays. As a result, these key elements are considered a work of originality which focuses on students' imagination. Similarly to Vygotsky argues that collaboration is the root of cognitive development. This corresponds to Jefferson and Anderson on the 4C's approach that eliminate the difficulty of learning and allow for transformation. It represents creativity, critical reflection, communication, and collaboration. Creativity is not to have fear of failure. Critical reflection is to elaborate and problem solve. Communication is to respect all voices to be original and collaboration to be engaged and open to all different challenges. As a result, I highly argue that schools must change and shift their focus to student originality, which is through their creative and imaginative minds. Nevertheless, on the controversial side shows that education is neglecting imagination. The most sufficient way to challenge that is by a community of practice, where we are working as teachers to solve similar problems. First off, how should we as teachers identify creativity in the classroom? Russ has invented a model to show the process of creativity in students. which is through their personal traits, emotional processes, and cognitive abilities. Consequently, all students have a capacity to use their creativity and imagination to transform an authentic problem solving. According to Richardson and Mishra, as educators, it is our role to nurture these profound transformations by the application of a supportive and positive classroom environment. Every child was born with creativity and imagination. It is not a skill or talent that is developed over the years. How can creativity be further taught? Well, teachers can be creative in their own way of teaching to promote the students' sense of freedom, and as a result, they are more likely to be invested in their learning. In reference to Foley, she stresses the notion to teach students to think like artists and discusses a valuable lesson for all teachers. Firstly, it is the comfort with ambiguity. It is normally in life that we all struggle with discomfort of not knowing and portraying it to students. Secondly, idea generation. We're allowing children to play with materials to make ideas manifest. And lastly, transdisciplinary research. Foley applies all education to serve curiosity and motivate students to think like artists. This application can create a pathway for creativity and help us as future teachers to manifest successfully in the classroom. For this reason, we need to embrace ambiguity to students rather than having a fear of it. People often assume that creativity can't be assessed or taught. There seems to be a fear of change in the classroom. Sir Ken Robinson states that gifted teachers help students to discover their creativity and nurture it. Creativity can be assessed by originality and value of the imagination applied. Therefore, teaching creativity is at some level true, through fostering a supportive environment full of creativity and to nurture students' originality. On the contrary, there is so much that needs to be met by contemporary education. In this growing age of technology, schools must foster a structure that adheres for the students' challenge in the 21st century. Are we as educators giving enough encouragement to originality? In all means, Jefferson and Anderson make a crucial point that to gain a job is to have shown creativity and social skills. So, how is the education system preparing for these challenges? This is a major alarm for all education sectors to take action and apply changes. The NAACCCE report distinguished between teaching creatively and teaching for creativity. Teaching creatively is recognized as using imaginative approaches to allow interest and effectiveness, whereas teaching for creativity is teachings that aim to develop students' own creative thinking. Jeffrey and Kraft demonstrate that teaching creatively associates with the development of a supportive atmosphere, where the teacher engages his or her own creative abilities. Teaching for creativity can include encouraging students in their own creative identity, identifying creative capacities, and controlling their own learning. Through the integrated presentation, I have managed to transform schools and teachers to demonstrate imagination and creativity in the classroom. As educators, we must encourage flow and allow for imagination to be part of the learning process. Students can feel in control of their own learning that will enhance their sense of confidence. Secondly, aim to nurture for students' imagination by giving positive reinforcements. That way, students can feel a sense of support and belonging within the classroom. Also, apply the 4C's approach for human agency and empowerment. It has the potential to transform mindsets and greater thinking skills. Imagination and creativity affects teachers and how the wider school community acts, as it embraces ambiguity on a personal discovery journey at their own pace. In accordance with Duffy, she emphasizes that imagination and creativity can develop human potential, enhance social skills, nurture emotions, explore and understand others. Thus, all schools must foster this learning environment. To cater these skills are importantly needed in the 21st century. The world is changing rapidly. Children need to adapt to using their creativity and imagination to make solutions to the unexpected situation, feel with others, and have an understanding towards new problems. Teachers can activate imagination and creativity in the classroom in various ways. Art can be used as a tool to stimulate imagination, allow for no instruction, and let the student lead their own thinking. Encourage the mixing of paint because it is not taught, it's implying student creativity. Therefore, a state of flow takes over where students zone out into their own imagination and feelings become reality. In accordance with Jefferson and Anderson, imagination and creativity manifests encouragement and excitement in the classroom. On the other hand, drama in the classroom is considered the useful tool to improve imagination, students engage in their own fantasy story and work together collaboratively. This highlights an emphasis on the 4 C's, where collaboration and communication are a key element to nurture for creativity and imagination in the classroom. Given these facts, I must call on all education systems to take action and make a change to give children the right to their own freedom of speech and thought. As Sir Ken Robinson mentioned, that imagination is important as literacy in education. Therefore, school system must not focus on designing schools in their own image, rather manifest it to meet the child's original ideas. So how are we as educators challenged?